Good evening for those of you that are joining our webinar on the Digerati Living Learning Community. My name is Perry Martin. I'll give it a few more minutes. Again, we had around 20 that were signed up. So um, with your understanding, I'll give it a couple more minutes before we get started to allow anyone else that wants to join in. Hey, Christian, appreciate you joining us. I told those that were in the room that we would give it just a couple more minutes in case there were late arrivals. For those of you joining us, Christian Franklin, who's a second year member of Digerati, will join me tonight and talk somewhat about the student perspective. Um, our conversation tonight is very informal. I'll take you through a little bit of the overview of what a living learning community is, Digerati specifically, and then likewise, if you have questions related to the experience of students who are looking at an IT related major here at Tech, Christian should be able to help you with that as well. So um, give it maybe just one more minute and then we'll get started. Um, Christian, what I'll do is I'll lead off. I've got a presentation on Digerati that I'll go through, and then we'll go to just kind of any kind of Q&A or follow up that we need to do. Hey, looks like we're close to 7:05. We'll go ahead and get started. Good evening. My name is Perry Martin. I'm the program director of the Digerati Living Learning Community, which is what tonight's webinar is about. With me, you'll see Christian Franklin, who is a current student in Digerati. He is in his second year in the program, and he will join and talk about his experiences in the program, and again, is available to talk about broader topics related to his experiences studying here at Virginia Tech. Um, for tonight, if you have questions, you certainly are welcome to put something in the chat and we'll address those at any time. I will go through a presentation just to kind of give you an overview of the community. And again, we'll allow for some time at the end for questions. I don't anticipate this will go the entire hour. So again, I know this is a busy time of year for many people. So just to assure you, anticipate this will be a shorter presentation than an hour. I'll go ahead and get started. So bear with me as I share screens here. Okay, so um, believe everyone should see the screen up. Christian, thumbs up. Are you seeing my presentation?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, good deal. So, Digerati Living Learning Community is an information technology living learning community at Virginia Tech. One of the themes that I'll share tonight is to clarify that we are open to any major at Virginia Tech. The field of information technology is widely distributed. It's embedded in so many different disciplines that this community does not limit itself to computer science or computer engineering or BIT, but instead is open to any major with the common thread that our focus is on information technology. What is a living learning community? So, if you're not familiar with a living learning community, or sometimes called living learning programs, an LLC or LLP are a niche community where you can live with students around a particular theme. At Virginia Tech, I believe our number is around 28, 29 different communities at Virginia Tech. And those communities can run a common experience such as art, well-being, entrepreneurship. They can get into similar life perspectives, such as first generation students. Communities will vary somewhat in terms of the size of the community, obviously in terms of the focus, and also in terms of the expectations of students. Digerati is just about to complete its second year of existence. So one of the things I would characterize as Digerati grows, typically a living learning program starts small with about 40 students, and then will slowly increase that number of students. Digerati currently sits around 56 students among first year and second year students. And then we anticipate growing next year, perhaps to around 70 is likely where our target's going to be. Um, Living learning programs have a program director, so there are other people at the university in my role. Our role is generally to have oversight over the programming. If there is a required course with the program, there may be teaching involved. Um, we certainly are involved in the student life aspects of the building, but we're not the only ones. So you have a student life staff that all communities at Virginia Tech have, all residence halls at Virginia Tech have, and they'll certainly look at the well-being of students in terms of the living situation on campus, certainly conversations related to student activities, student discipline, those kinds of things are part of a broader commitment at Tech that includes both my role in the Living Learning program, but also the broader leadership of living learning programs. This particular picture you see here, and I think a theme that you'll see tonight is you may not see many computers. So one of the things I think with Digerati is we are a community there that's committed to a balance in student lives. And so while we recognize a lot of focus in IT and computer science and coding, cybersecurity, I also try to emphasize opportunities for our students to break away from what is familiar there. This particular picture was taken at a event we did for fall break. It was designed to be a stress relief event. And so our students actually spent the day with horses at a farm setting. And it was an opportunity for our students simply to get away from campus, to get a breath of fresh air, to relax, to have a nice meal, and then certainly go through a guided activity on stress relief with therapeutic horseback riding or horseback programs. It wasn't riding actually, but work with horses. So that's an example of some things that you'll see with Digerati and with other living learning programs. As I've shared, Digerati is interdisciplinary. Typically, you will see most majors be in computer science, computer engineering, business information technology, cybersecurity, among others. So you do not have to be in the College of Engineering to be in Digerati. However, most students are in the College of Engineering. And that is particularly helpful in that for students who are majoring in an engineering related field, you will find that being in Digerati means that you're going to have people who are taking same courses just down the hall. It's certainly an opportunity for you to easily put together study groups, to have individuals at arm's length who can help encourage you, to help guide you in choices academically and otherwise. So Digerati is intended to be a community of like-minded students. This particular picture here, which you see Christian in the picture, is from our morning class. The speaker there is actually a liaison with Microsoft. And so one of the things that she offered, we had a session with the what I call an employee development person with Microsoft who talked about Microsoft certifications, his experiences working with Microsoft. And so the opportunity is there through Digerati to get to know people within the industry. And again, this was an example of one of our facilitated discussions and guest speakers. Digerati is located in Pritchard Hall. Pritchard is actually one of the largest, if not the largest, residential hall on the Virginia Tech campus. There's roughly 1,000 students within Pritchard Hall. Digerati occupies the fourth floor, so we have a common space, common wing in the building where we're all situated. It is a shared building with the Galileo and Hypatia living learning communities, which you may have heard of. So we're all located in Pritchard. We do have a lounge that's exclusive for Digerati use. It is a lounge that will run the gamut of a space for gaming, a space for homework, a space for lounging, watching movies. We also have our own printer in there, which is something we actually were conversing on tonight just before we came on. Our printers had a few problems lately, so we're looking at purchasing a new one. But again, it's an amenity that we offer specifically to Digerati to be available to our students. One of the things I will say about Pritchard Hall, if you're looking at some of the social media or comments about Pritchard Hall, the history of Pritchard Hall has at times been notorious with 1,000 students in it. For many years, it was actually an all-male residence hall on the Virginia Tech campus. But Pritchard Hall this past year actually went through a transformation where all of our living learning communities associated with engineering moved into it. And so the intent behind that was really to change somewhat of the culture of the building to be very much focused on the on aspects of student success in engineering. So I think when you have a community of students who are in engineering, they're all living together, there's certainly an understanding that there's a need to focus. There's certainly an expectation that there'll be common test times and common courses, common stress factors. And so being in Pritchard Hall has been different from previous years this year because you have a student population that are in rigorous programs, be primarily in engineering. And so there's less time for things that are distractions, shall we say, in the community than in previous years. Digerati program, I'll probably spend the most on this particular slide here. And again, this was a picture actually from one of our therapeutic days that we had in the community. But from an academic perspective, we have a 1 credit course that is required in the fall and the spring of the first year. This class meets on Fridays at 8 a.m. Yes, you heard me right, Fridays at 8 a.m. And the reason we do that is so that our course is less likely to conflict with other required courses you have. Secondly, our course is different than other classes in that I would characterize it more of a time of relaxation, a time of reflection, a time of listening rather than the rigors of a whiteboard or a computer screen. We routinely have homemade breakfast items in class, and it gives the students an opportunity to commune together, but also have common guest speakers that are of interest across the entire Digerati population. So the type of assignments we do are rather straightforward and simple. We will require completion of a resume, an online professional profile. There'll be some activities where I'll require involvement in an academic study session, some requirements around attending career-related activities. And then we do things called AFK events, which are away from keyboard events that get into anything from a tour of a local business, a local effort, to something that's more therapeutic and relaxing. But we even do some life skill events. So one of the things I do at least once a year is I'll take students out and we may experience changing a tire. We may experience jump starting a battery in a car. We'll do some things that are life skills beyond the academic norms. And again, the intent behind that is to prepare students for a well-rounded life that includes stress relief, but it also includes awareness of other aspects of life that are going to be important to manage. There's certainly regular engagement with IT faculty. This past fall, we had the department head of computer science speak to us, the department head of business information technology. We had the vice president for security and access here at Virginia Tech, which looks at cybersecurity, spoke to us. We also had the department head of electrical and computer engineering speak to us. So the engagement with IT faculty will look at the department heads, will speak to us to talk about their work and the trends in the educational experience here at Tech, what students should be prepared for during their time at Tech. In addition to that, we've had other guest speakers, and I'm actually going to read from this list so I don't miss them. But over the last couple of years, we've had guest speakers from the Hume Center for National Security at Virginia Tech. We've had a private sector CEO talking about his experience with entrepreneurship. We've had the CEO of a drone show company based in Alexandria, Virginia, to talk about the technology behind drones and how they connect into information technology. We've had faculty from the School of Performing Arts to talk about interdisciplinary art and creativity with information technology. We've had a professor from the School of Communication talk about political and legal topics within information technology. We've had a conversation about cryptocurrency from a professor in computer science. We've had a professor actually in the Department of English talk about the social impact of gaming. And we also have guest speakers from career and professional development who talk about the fundamentals of preparing for jobs of the future. One of the more unique speakers we had actually this past year, and actually I was just emailing him today, is Bernie Kosel, who is considered a national internet pioneer. And he actually lives in this area, and he was part of a four-person team with DARPA that created what would become the internet in 1970. So this small project, somewhat secretive project that was created in 1970 was the first internet. And so one of those team of four that was a creator of it lives within an hour of where we sit right now. And so we had the opportunity for our students to visit with him and hear about his experiences. So that gets into the kinds of guest speakers that we have. In addition to that, we do have outings. We've done everything from visits to the drone park to a hip hop studio, but then more social events where we've gone to a fall festival. We've done ice skating, and we actually have some events coming up later this month where we will be involved in going to. There's actually a video game museum in Roanoke nearby from here that we'll actually be visiting later this month. Beyond that, we do encourage IT relevant career certifications. Our students did have the opportunity to go through preparation for Microsoft certifications this semester. Some students chose to go that path. We do regular study groups on Sundays. We have a tutor come to the building and this tutor is available for all levels of math. And so calculus, Calc 2, Calc 3, and beyond, we have a tutor, professional tutor that comes in and is willing to meet with students. Um, so those, and the last thing I'll mention before I forget is collaborations with IT student organizations. We do host a panel, usually in the fall each year, of some of our student organizations. Routinely, you'll see those organizations posting flyers in the building. And so those are certainly opportunities for engagement with broader campus organizations as part of who we are. Speaking of who we are, Digerati values, I would certainly say student success focus. One of the things that I do track with our Digerati students is our academic progress. I'm pleased to say this year's, in the first semester, our current GPA average of Digerati first year students was 3.5 on a scale of 4. That is higher than the College of Engineering typically, which is the college I have access to. So last year we were at 3.45. So you can see in 2 years, we're certainly hanging around a 3.5 GPA average for our students. I think the credit for that goes to number one, the student work ethic you see in Digerati, student abilities. But I do think having a small community where there are opportunities for people to study together, support each other, can be absolutely helpful in the academic success. Student success also hinges on the development of a community of peers. And so part of those peers is looking at how do we support each other in terms of encouragement. The person you see speaking this slide, Kayla Osborne, was actually a student that I knew through another program I managed called Pathways for Future Engineers. Kayla I got to know before college. She came into Digerati. You can see her here actually recruiting for both Pathways and Digerati at a recent event in Loudoun County, Virginia. But part of that community of peers is to maintain connections. The people you see in this picture all knew each other from actually the Pathways program. They've stayed together in Digerati. And so having that community of peers means that if you want to join clubs together, if you want to eat together, if you want to socialize together, you certainly have a small community where you can know each other and be known, and that's important. Along with that, interdisciplinary perspectives is important. Though we're an IT living learning community, Abdullah, who's on your left, and Kayla are both actually biomedical engineering majors. And so while they have interest in information technology, they are in a major that we don't traditionally think of as connected specifically to IT. And so they have been in the community for 2 years and they will return for a third year next year. Diane, who you see on the right, actually is entering our community and is coming to us from the Hypatia community, joining us for her second year at Tech. So she's an incoming student. We certainly see the importance of balance and other interests. Going back to this picture, Kayla, who you see in the picture, actually is part of a dance ensemble at Virginia Tech. She stays rather busy with that, actually. Um, and so that's an important part of student life. We are happy to see students who are active in other endeavors. Christian, I know, is a tutor that's involved with other programs here at Tech, helping students beyond our community. He's certainly, and Christian, I believe you're involved in a couple other organizations. I'll get the names wrong, but can you share the organizations you're involved with?
Yeah, so I deal with actually BCM ministry on campus. I deal with CS squared. I deal with IEEE. Then I also have some really good connections with a couple CS tenured professors that we have some good conversations with.
Yeah.
Oh, and I work for Virginia Tech Athletics. I tutor Virginia Tech athletes, and I'm looking to become a TA for computer systems in the upcoming semester.
Yes. The other thing that I'll mention is we do have Digerati students who get hired into jobs assisting our broader office umbrella, the SEED program, which is Center for the Enhancement of Engineering Diversity. We offer job opportunities there. We have summer camps that we host. And so some of our Digerati students will be working some of those summer camps upcoming. And I think all this can kind of be summarized as preparation for the role of IT in society. Whether you're working with a recruiting of students to Digerati who are in high school, as you see in this picture. But we also have this semester in our Digerati class, we have students who are designing websites for local nonprofits. We have students who are planning a podcast to encourage engineering to pre-college populations. We have students who are planning a drone show in conjunction with an upcoming summer camp. So all of these are part of things that we do in Digerati where well, I will not characterize that we are the technical education arm of Virginia Tech that's done through the student-specific majors. What we are doing is looking at how do we expose students to the community of peers, to the connections beyond the community, be they professional or broader community connections. And then how do we have students focus on what their interests truly are? And so when Kayla is part of a dance troupe, one of the things that's important to me as program director is I keep up with how she's doing with that. You'll see our students invite each other to come to what they're doing, whether it's a DJ night or whether it's a dance night or something like that. So that's part of valuing the interest of each student, and that's important to us in Digerati. The Digerati application, and again, I'm sure you recognize the QR code there, but you apply to a living learning program after accepting an offer to Virginia Tech. And so you'll have a contract generated to you from housing, and within that, you can choose up to 3 living learning programs if you want to be in a living learning program. So let me clarify, you don't have to be in a themed housing like Digerati. But of these 28, 29 programs that we have at Tech, you can choose to apply to any of those. Digerati is one of those, and that's what we're sharing tonight. But again, what happens in these scenarios is you apply for the programs, up to 3 of them. There are required essay questions, and then there's offers of admissions on a rolling basis. So as we speak, we're getting applications into Digerati. I review those uh, generally every other day, certainly on a weekly basis. I look at the applications that come in, I review the essays. I also look at your broader application to Virginia Tech. I have access to that. So what I'm looking for is your enthusiasm and interest to be in Digerati and within information technology. I'm very interested in your creativity, very interested in your interests and how you plan to use the degree you're pursuing. Um, again, the applications are accepted up until the end of May, basically around June 3rd, I want to believe is the deadline for applications. However, being that Digerati is a smaller community, I would highly recommend getting your applications in April or mid-May at the latest. Pushing the deadline is not because we're conscious about filling our slots. I won't say it's first come, first serve, but certainly you're going to see people who apply earlier get reviewed earlier, and therein potentially get earlier offers. So I would certainly encourage you to move reasonably quickly on your applications. And while other communities are larger than Digerati, we are smaller, and so we will certainly fill up somewhat sooner potentially. Um, you can see right here the my information, the address here. Digerati gets to me, so if you have any questions throughout this process, you're more than welcome to put out there. Christian, I see, sent me a note. June 6th is technically the deadline for submitting, but like I said, we typically find most living learning programs to be full around the 1st of June. Um, Final thoughts that I'll have before we wrap up here and go to just any kind of Q&A that you may have. I'll certainly say that beyond the presentation I give, um, an important value to me within Digerati and any living learning program is the ability to personalize the experience. I do meet one-on-one with all of the Digerati students in the fall semester. It's important to me to get to know students, to get to know what their interests are. Um, if that interest takes you beyond the typical, IT paths, I encourage that. I invite that. Very often, I have students that have hobbies that are important to them, and that potentially considering other aspects of a career that's important to them, such as music, such as art, such as things in more of the living life sciences area. And so, the more that I hear that, the more that I try students towards helpful opportunities, helpful people. Certainly share internship opportunities with students on a routine basis. I certainly try to have an eye out for job opportunities. And if, for example, I see something that I think Christian might be interested in, I may send a note there and say, hey, check this out. I had you in mind when I saw this. And I think that's important. And it's something that I think being a smaller community enables us to do rather well. Um, I certainly will keep up with academic progress, and that looks at it from both perspectives. For those students that are excelling very well, I'm certainly going to push opportunities for research in graduate school. Um, Likewise, if there are students that are finding some challenges academically in certain classes, I have students within Digerati that I meet with on a weekly basis. And so what I do is sit down with them, just the two of us sitting down and talking about how the week went. I consider that to be part of a coaching experience for me to encourage students, to help them solve their own problems, to be someone there that can be a sounding board, be someone there that can be an encourager. And so I do keep an eye on how students are doing. As I said, I keep track of the grades in aggregate for Digerati, but within that, I do look at individual grades, and I will reach out when I see a situation that I feel like I should check in on how a student is doing. We have fun in Digerati. Probably the last thing I do, I have kind of a unique sense of humor, so it's not uncommon for me to post, shade every now and then to some of the students just in good fun. Our class time is one there where I try to speak to my students as peers and encourage them as young professionals, and part of that is respecting their voice and their perspective, their likes and dislikes. And my lived experience is as somebody that has been at the university for 25 years. I grew up in this area. I've been professionally, I've worked everywhere in from an assistant to a vice president to in community outreach work and to also as a professor of leadership programs. So I've seen a lot of different things during my time at Tech, and part of what I'm interested in is helping students find their way at the university. I'll leave it there right now. As you saw, it's me and Christian on the call here, and I'll actually stop sharing here and go back to more of an open screen. I do see those of you who are attending there in the screen here. So I'll invite you, if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand. Feel free to post it in the chat. Christian, would you share your major with everyone just so they're familiar? So I know you're actually outside of the College of Engineering specifically, but are in a obviously an engineering connected major.
Yeah, so I always, I always get that when I tell people what my major originally was, which was data centric computing, it still is under computer science. Everyone kind of thinks I fall in that science, but officially now, which it changed over the recent, I'm now just a plain old computer science major. Um, but I think it's a misnomer when you start calling computer science majors and engineers in like the because computer science is unique. Actually, I would argue that computer science could be its own college.
Sure.
Actually, it's computer science is I can pretty much guarantee it's probably the largest department in the College of Engineering. I
Mhm.
believe check numbers that is true.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, it's a very big community. Um, I'm not sure how many people here are in computer science. If you are, then this will definitely apply. Even if you're computer engineering or anything related, it'll still apply. Digerati, as I said, I've been in since it started. Um, I've always said it was a really good decision I made. I like being in a smaller community. We have a lot of fun. I've always been a very technical person. Even in high school, all I did was programming competitions. Here, when it comes to coursework, I'm still like that. I love doing project based work, but Digerati also gives me that outlet to hang out with people and just relax. I tend to hang out in the lounge quite a bit. Well, fun, play games. It gives me that outlet because when you're in this highly technical majors, oh, there's a question there. When you're in these highly technical majors, um, it becomes difficult, I would say, not necessarily on your mind, but also your body. Like my eyes sometimes just feel like they want to burn out of my head because I stare at a computer so much doing these projects. And being able to go to a pumpkin farm or ice skating is really nice. Really fun to be able to do that kind of stuff. And then I said, you just have that really small community. You have your own lounge. Uh, People tend to get put off. When I was at Hokey Focus for 11 hours, I actually had people walk up to me, and the first question they ask is, "Where does Digerati have air conditioning?" I've had that happen to me, and you know, I've been in Pritchard Hall going on 2 years. I'm going to be here for another third year. Don't necessarily let the place you live dictate your experience because that will backfire very quickly. Not only on your wallet, and if that's not a concern for you, it will backfire in terms of community. CID, I know plenty of people in CID and the living experiences they have, not always the greatest. Actually, I went to CID the other day and it kind of looked like some tigers got loose, kind of ran around the halls there for a brief period of time. But I always encourage people if you're interested in anything IT related, uh, our community is always interested in people not only to build community but to build technical relationships. I'm actually the equivalent of a third year computer science student. So when it comes to when it comes to knowledge, I have a lot of it. I have a lot of technical skills, and I love to help people that are interested. My interests specifically are in computer systems, high performance computing, and so I love to talk about that. But yeah, that's kind of an overview of me, my experiences, my thoughts. If you have any specific questions, I can answer things about not only housing, the application processes, anything like that.
We did have a question come in from Miles about have any students gotten internships through Digerati? Yes, and I'll clarify. There's not really one magical way to get an internship, but one of the things that we have seen is we have had guest speakers come in, and I mentioned the Hume Center for National Security. So they routinely host internships for students. And so one of the things that's happened is by promoting that to our students, we've had students then follow up and apply for internships. I routinely write letters of support for students pursuing internships, and they will get those in many cases. I'll caveat that by saying, in general, internships sometimes may target a upper level student, but you can still be in your first semester of college and get an opportunity. The other thing that's helpful is, as I mentioned, actually, as we speak right now, a friend of mine who I've had guest speak to Digerati works in cloud-based applications for Google. And she's actually doing a webinar herself right now nationally. But I had her speak to our students. And one of the interesting things about her experience is she came through Virginia Tech. She came through a living learning program. She's now been a professional for 10 years and now is in an influential position at Google related to cloud-based sensibilities and development at Google. I have given her contact information to some of our Digerati students saying, hey, this is a friend of mine, reach out, introduce yourself, follow them on social media because they're going to be having eyes for someone who's Virginia Tech and specifically from this program because they're familiar with it, they know the program. Um, as I mentioned on the internship side, we do within our office hire students. So one of the things I watch out for as our students is workload. I had a student earlier this year that was working, actually two students who are working in the dining programs at Tech. I knew they were very hardworking students. And I approached them about working specifically for my program here in the office because I felt that I could offer them more flexible hours. And so one of the things I try to do is watch where our students, excuse me, have needs, um, and try to be keeping out for internships and paid positions that meet their interests, but also are less likely to be a hindrance on their academics. So nothing wrong with working in a dining hall whatsoever. It can be a great experience. But for sometimes students, that can be a challenge if they're faced with a difficult schedule where they have homework, etc. Do we have other questions? One of the things I'll share, and this is something that's, sometimes people will uh, find it odd that I would say this, but we do have gaming space within our lounge. And so I can imagine sometimes family and parents hearing this thing, well, wouldn't gaming be a distraction for our students? The reality is students are going to, those that are interested in gaming are going to do that. Having a lounge that sets up with larger screen TVs and a place there enables us to build community some there. So it's important to me that we offer those spaces in the community, and that's part of the Digerati experience. There's nothing incredibly fancy with our lounge other than we have larger TVs and plenty of places to plug in a printer, refrigerator, things like that that can be useful to students. Do we have other questions or anything that someone would like us to elaborate on related to majors, related to Digerati, related to living on campus? Be happy to address those right now. I don't believe I'm seeing any just yet. I'll uh, listen to the awkward silence for a little bit, but again, I will say, again, kind of as a last call for questions here, you do have Digerati, and Christian, I might get you to type that in the chat real quick. Digerati at vt.edu is an email that you can reach me at if you have questions throughout this. You can do that. There's certainly the web links out there for Digerati where you can find more information on us. This webinar will be posted on our page. One of the things that I also mentioned that if you're looking to come to Digerati and you have perhaps a roommate in mind that you want to room with, I am certainly happy to have you. You both have to apply to be in Digerati. You both have to be accepted. That said, I'm a strong believer in keeping you together with somebody you're familiar with. And so I'm happy to get those requests to say, I want to be in Digerati, but I really want to live with X person. Even if X person is outside of a traditional IT major and perhaps is not incredibly invested in information technology, as long as they feel like that there's a reasonable fit with their major and interest, I certainly will consider the fact that they are a preferred roommate in making a decision on them coming into Digerati. I certainly welcome that. But again, I'm looking to see if we have any other questions.
So
I see it. Yeah, go ahead. Take it, take it.
yeah, so there's only really two. Okay, so it kind of depends on what you consider an engineering LLC. I don't if as far as like throwing like these massive events, it's so there's two really core engineering living learning programs. There's Gallo and Hypatia. I kind of looped them into one, and then there's Digerati because we fall into the same seat office that Perry works for as one of the assistant directors for. So it's hard to do the kinds of things we do as a small community because their community is so large. It is very hard to essentially connect with a community of 800 people that have their own requirements. We're pretty lenient on our requirements. We don't really force you to do anything. We just want you to engage in a conversation with us. But as far as uh, these heavy duty requirements, they have their own they kind of have to deal with. If you want to do things outside, be my guest. We can give you those connections with people in other communities. We have a lot of Digerati students that hang out regularly, even in our own lounge with people that are in Gallo and Hypatia, if that answers that question.
I did see a question about where the this recording can be replayed. It will be uploaded tomorrow. You actually will see on the page tonight last year's webinar, but this year's webinar will be posted tomorrow on our webpage, and I posted a link there as an answer. Um, I want to echo Christian's point there about what we do in the community. Again, I go back to individualization. One of the benefits of being smaller right now is that we are not expecting everyone to have the same perspective or same experience. We have the ability to personalize things a little more. An example of that right now is, as I mentioned, we have some student groups as part of the Digerati class working on a web page. I also gave students the option to create their own project. So we have 3 students that are encouraged to um, present their own idea for a startup to the Digerati class. And I'm a strong believer that if you're a large community, that could be rather unwieldy to entertain a couple hundred different ideas. But because we're small, I've encouraged my students to present their idea for a video game in one case. I've got 2 others that are looking to present app ideas. And while I don't think any of us expect that these will be perfectly thought through or vetted ideas for a student project, the reality is, as much of our IT progress has come from creative energy from an individual who chose to start something up at a young age. And so I think that it's certainly appropriate for Digerati to give students that space. The idea is going back to large scale events. Um, they're great. We certainly encourage our students to go to large career fairs and to other activities around campus or within other living learning programs. But I will say that as a small community, one of the things that we have the benefit of is that we can do the smaller scale events and you get to know the people on a more personal level. We have retained last year, we retained about 30% of our first years onto a second year, which is a pretty good number for retention for living learning programs. And again, I think some of that comes from developing solid relationships. Um, Again, we're at 7:50 right now, thereabouts. Give kind of a final call for any questions. Christian, anything you would like to add as we wrap up?
Sure. Let's see. I'm trying to go back to my hokey focus hour and see what people were asking. I don't know. I think the biggest thing is there's a lot of I'm not sure. Was this event advertised to everyone under that people had connections with the C department?
It was
Mm.
part of actually the College of Engineering has been offering these webinars
Oh, okay.
week. So yes, it's been posted out there to a variety.
Okay, so there's probably at least one mechanical engineering student somewhere in the chat. There's probably like 2 aerospace. So we probably get that mixture. And I had people that came up to me and they're like, you're mentioned in the mechanical by a mechanical engineering professor, or the department had a mechanical engineering. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And it goes to show you just there is no restrictions on exact where not only the community goes to, but also information technology. I mean, we've had guest speakers like James Ivory. He's in the Department of English. He's a professor. And it just goes to show you, IT is everywhere. And mechanical engineering, your advancements and these methods, they're all based usually on advancements in computing and advancements in technology. So no matter where you go, even like biomedical engineering, these advancements can only be done because of how fast computing has become and how technology has evolved. IT is everywhere, and thus Digerati accepts everyone. So if you're sitting here and you're like, Digerati, it says IT. I think a lot of people looked at our logo, saw the word IT, and was like, yeah, no, we're not computer science. If you're looking at our logo and seeing IT and thinking, this is not for me, I can't be in this community, I can guarantee you that is not the case. I don't have that sheet on me of people's majors, but I know not all of them are engineering. I think we have like 15 or so that aren't in the College of Engineering, if I look
Yeah,
at the numbers.
sounds
Yeah,
right.
and it's not like these people I know, and these people are not like this community was not for me. So there is a place for you if you have any interest in technology, even an interest in gaming. Obviously, gaming falls under information technology in its own sector. Uh, I invite you to join. I hope that the naming, the technical the technical name does not make you kind of move away from Digerati, and I hope you realize that this community really is for anyone as long as you have that interest.
Well, thank you, Christian. I certainly appreciate you joining us, appreciate Christian's work with the program. And again, if you chose to, were accepted to Digerati and chose to join, you would see Christian next year along with the other people you actually saw in the pictures just now. I'm pretty sure you would see them next year as well. So there's certainly familiar faces, encouraging voices, opportunities for us to individualize your experience at Tech. Um, and I would also say a place that's going to look at how we support you holistically. We actually bought a piano recently. I know we've had a little trouble getting it working, but we bought a digital keyboard for the lounge because we had students that wanted to play, and that's important to me that we're trying to continue to adapt to what student interests are, and we'll continue to do that. So I won't keep you any longer. It's closing in on 8 o'clock, but I do want to thank you for joining us tonight. I will remind you, Digerati at vt.edu, which Christian put in the chat there. You can send a program question to, and happy to answer that. And if it's helpful to have a phone call or Zoom call to have more focused discussion, I'm happy to schedule that with you as well. So for Christian Franklin, and I'm Perry Martin with the Digerati program at Virginia Tech. Thank you all again. I hope you all have a great evening, and I hope to see you at Virginia Tech, whether you're in Digerati or not. You all take care.